And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American Pharoah is finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
And Bonds hits right high. It's a dig. It is out of here. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson, and the Dodgers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the all-new app, JB and Goldwater. Download that for free, whether you've got the iPhone or the Android, the Google Play Store, the Apple Store. They're both in there, or they're in both, and they're free in both, and we would encourage you to do so. And also with that, you can purchase a season ticket once you've downloaded the app. And we'd love you to do that because you can be a part of a really neat event coming up here at the end of November. Darren Goldwater is to the right of your screen. I'm Jamie. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. You can follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater and individually at Sports Radio JB at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number, and it's also our text line. If you'd like to send a comment there, send it, and we'll try to talk about that or answer the question or whatever it may be right here live on the air. Speaking of live on the air, we are scheduled to carry Will Muschamp's press conference coming up here in about 30 minutes or so out of Columbia. We'll see how much we can carry. We'll carry as much as we can. Let's just say that until we don't need to air it live anymore. So stay tuned for Coach Muschamp in Columbia. We've got Perry Orth at 1 o'clock today. We have Gene Sapikoff today at 1:30, Darren. So we'll continue to discuss everything that is surrounding the Gamecock football program. Obviously, it is a really hot topic this week, the future of Will Muschamp and things like that. Not much has changed. Darren, I've heard some things, between now and yesterday that, I believe wholeheartedly some of what I've heard is true, but I don't think that is time to regurgitate any of that information at this point. Some of it, I don't think it is true. So we're still on kind of wait and see mode, but we do know this. Carolina and Ole Miss will play this weekend. So they need to win. Let's just say that. They need to win.
They need to win. They also... Well, if they're going to win, then it's not going to be a colossal dumpster fire like it has been for the last 2 weeks. But even in a loss, if it's a loss, it has to be much better. And it has to be better not just because you're playing a defense that isn't very good. It needs to be better all around. You need to see the effort there. Something that's coming out of, this is Tuesday, so Muschamp talks. Before that, the players talk.
Yeah.
And we've said this over and over and over again about how much the players love Will Muschamp.
Right.
They do. It's an indisputable fact. The players love Will Muschamp.
They do.
And they're saying it today. They need to play like it on Saturday. They're all saying the right things. We know there's outside noise, but that's just what it is. It's outside noise. We love this man. I think someone even said take a bullet for this man. Okay. Go play like it.
Yeah.
Go play like you're playing for this guy's job, because you just might be. And you don't want to throw all that on the backs of kids in college, but it's a reality that they need to understand that the outside noise, the as much as it's grown, it's not just outside noise right now.
No, it's not really outside when the large majority of the fan base is clamoring for a change at the head coaching position. That's directly tied to you. Outside noise normally is considered people from just places that don't know anything about the program.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that know a lot about the program who are very frustrated with it at this point in time. And you're right, the players today wholeheartedly defending Will Muschamp and being asked about him as a coach and how they're are they paying attention to what is being said and things like that. Deshaun Fenwick said that you have to ignore it. That's my coach. I love him. I'll do anything for him. Yeah, Nick Muse said I would take a bullet for Will Muschamp. J.J. Enigbare spoke about Coach Muschamp, said we love Champ. We ride with him, and he rides with us. And this is – you're going to hear more and more from the players, and maybe that's what it takes. Maybe that's what it takes for this to be kind of a unity moment for the program where the future of their leader is being questioned. And they say, you know what, forget everything that's happened. We got to go out there. We got to go out there and play like we love him, and do the things like you just said. Do what we're saying.
Yep.
I do think that there is a coaching issue on the team. I think we should all. I mean, it's hard to not say that.
Right.
I just think that's cold hard fact. But I also think that there has been an issue with players, performing up to their standard, and a performance issue. I mean, there's been guys we've heard about, this guy and then this guy and then this guy, and none of them have really gone in there and done anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jalen Brooks, everybody should be excited about him. He's got more drops than catches in 2 games, and that's not a reflection on him as a kid, or I don't even think as a player. I think he knows he's better than that. But why is that?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody seems to have those answers. So, yeah, the questions are still spinning around, and they're going to have to start answering them this week. They're going to have to score a lot of points this week. I will say this, and I'm not sure how much Will confirm about this today, Darren.
Mm-hmm.
But Colin Hill, from what I understand, will not be the starting quarterback this weekend.
That won't surprise me at all. And, yeah, I don't know if that'll be confirmed, or if it is confirmed, I don't know if it'll be I'm naming Ryan or Luke the starter. It may just be someone's going to get a start, and it's not going to be Colin Hill.
Right.
But that's not going to be a surprise, as Wes was saying yesterday on the show, Wes Mitchell. A spark has to be there. Is this all on Colin Hill? No, it's not even remotely close to being all on Colin Hill.
Right.
But you need some type of a spark. You need something to rally around, and that is oftentimes the quarterback position.
Yep. Well, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. Has Colin Hill had a couple of bad games? Yep, he has. But no, this is not all on Colin Hill. Colin has not given up 100 points in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Has this offense contributed to the defense maybe, being insufficient in certain areas at times? Absolutely. I mean, it all kind of ties into itself. But it's not all on Colin Hill. But from what I am being told, he will not start this week. It looks like it'll be Ryan or Luke. There could be an opportunity for them to kind of split snaps depending on what's going on in the ball game and things like that. But, again, Will Muschamp is coming up here in about 20-plus minutes, and we'll see what else he has to say on that situation. He might not announce a starter until later on in the week. Or, it might be they might start somebody, whether it's Luke or Ryan, but both of them will kind of share the load throughout the game depending on what the situation is. So the starter, although it is important, it might not be the end-all, be-all for the quarterback position against Ole Miss.
I think if whoever starts, if he's out there throwing seeds and everything's going great, you probably won't see someone else. But if there are ups and downs, then I would expect to see both guys get both being Ryan and Luke, some looks, some full possessions.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. You're at a point where you can't really guard against the bad right now. I mean, I know that Luke Doty is a true freshman, and there is always going to be the fear of throwing in a true freshman in a sticky situation and hoping that something bad doesn't happen, a fumble or an interception, a poor decision, something like that. But you can't really guard against that at this point in time. Your back is not only up against the wall. I mean, it's kind of pinned there right now, and so you really, at the end of the day, if you feel like there's something that could work, you need to put it out there and just try it. And if it doesn't work out the way you were hoping, then it doesn't work out the way you were hoping. But at least you tried it, and that's what people are searching for right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what the definition of a spark basically is.
Right.
You can't be worried about the bad right now, because that's where you're starting from. So you need to go out and try and find something else.
Yeah.
And if it's Ryan, great. If it's Luke, great. If it's, I don't know, if it's Shai Smith having 20 catches and 350 yards, great.
Right.
It's got to be something.
Yeah, it's got to be something. Unfortunately, I do think that Coach Muschamp is probably coaching for his future on a week-to-week basis right now. And we'll talk more about the job and things like that as the afternoon unfolds here. Real quick, some breaking news from Augusta, Georgia. Tee times are out in the Masters. I know where you're going. We do have breaking news as well with Gamecock women's basketball, so hang tight. But Tiger Woods will tee off at 7:55 a.m. on the 10th tee, and he'll tee with Shane Lowry and Andy Ogletree. So that is his threesome, 7:55 a.m. So he'll pretty much be wrapping up his round when we hop on the air.
Should be.
On Thursday. Immediately following on the 10th tee is Gary Woodland, Ian Poulter, and Jordan Spieth. So a couple of nice groupings there back to back. Justin Thomas, he'll tee at 11:49, and his group does have Matthew Fitzpatrick and Brooks Koepka in it. Wow, 11:49. That's on the first tee. Also on the first tee, right at noon, is Patrick Cantlay, Rory McIlroy, and Dustin Johnson. So Rory, DJ, JT, and Koepka going back to back there on the first tee. So a couple of quick pairings to give you for the Masters teeing off on Thursday. Really looking forward to that. Also, breaking news out of Columbia, South Carolina, and the AP has named South Carolina number 1 to start the women's basketball season, and that is ahead of second-ranked Stanford, third-ranked UConn, fourth-ranked Baylor, fifth-ranked Louisville, sixth-ranked Mississippi State, Arizona, North Carolina State, UCLA, and Oregon to round out the top 10. Other SEC notables, Kentucky at 11, A&M at 13, Arkansas at 14, and that's it for the Southeastern Conference. But South Carolina preseason number 1 in the country.
I'm not going to pretend to be very well versed in the top 25 of women's basketball. I am, though, surprised that UConn's 3, because they haven't been the elite level the last couple of years that UConn typically is. But we'll get to see Carolina and UConn play, and that'll be fun.
That's right. Yeah, looking forward to that. Also, some news today out of Clemson. They have released their schedule for the men's basketball program. You can head to their website to find that in its entirety. But in the release that we received, although the game was not listed, there was a note in the release, and that note said Clemson will travel to Columbia to play the Gamecocks, but that date has not been released. So it looks like waiting on South Carolina to probably officially release that date. But that will be added to the Tigers basketball schedule. And, of course, the Gamecocks, that'll be added into their schedule. So Clemson and South Carolina on the men's side will play in college hoops, which I think is great. And that game, again, will be in Columbia. 843-321-8893. Again, Will Muschamp at 12:30, his press conference. We're going to bring that to you here live. I think we're going to be in the clear to do that. And we do have Perry Orth at 1 o'clock and Gene Sapikoff at 1:30 today as well. South Carolina is not the only bad thing going on, though, in college football, but it's not one of the better stories either. Darren and I have kind of gotten together over the last couple of days and looked at some of the better or some of the surprises of the college football season. We've also looked at some of the disappointments or the blank shows of the college football season, and we'll start on that side of it. And I don't know, it's early for Penn State, but it hadn't been good.
Well, it's early, but it's 3 games in already, so you're a third of the way through.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And
good point.
And the issue against Maryland, like, I think it was the 3rd or 4th time ever that Maryland had beaten Penn State. The score was not even remotely close to indicative of how badly Maryland beat Penn State. And the comparisons are strikingly similar to what's going on in Columbia. I'll start with what's different. Obviously, there is more tradition of success in Happy Valley than there is in Columbia. That's obvious, right?
That's kind.
But when it comes to what's happening now, the issues are unbelievably parallel. You got a coach who's in his 7th or 8th year, James Franklin, who 4 years ago, 2016, there were rumblings that, all right, we've had enough of James Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
There were boos coming down in a game against Minnesota. They ended up rallying, winning that game, and then won all the way out. And it's all right, we got this thing back on track. Now where Penn State is just like Carolina. They have a veteran quarterback who looks lost, completely lost. Sean Clifford is not the answer, and that is
that surprising to you?
Very. Now,
I thought he was one of the better QBs in the league coming into the season.
He should have been, but he hasn't taken a step forward. In order to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league, Sean Clifford had to take a step forward. He was good, but he wasn't – he was serviceable. He needed to take that step forward. Instead, he went tumbling backwards, and he's missing guys, and he's missing them badly. He's taking sacks. You stop me if this doesn't sound like the Gamecocks. There's a defense that is not in position. When they are in position, they're missing tackles. They look lifeless. Where there is a bit of a difference, maybe. The Penn State players are being pretty honest and outspoken and saying that they have to come together as one. It feels as though the Gamecock players as a team, they are pretty much united. It feels like Penn State is not, and it's not close. So the way they looked against Maryland, I had the same feeling about Penn State as many Gamecock fans did watching the last game against Texas A&M. Like, I haven't seen that team play that poorly in a long, long, long time. And it was frustrating. Franklin has said many times, loyalty. He's loyal. Okay. Sometimes loyalty to a fault is a problem. And that's where we are at the quarterback position. There's a backup who's got snaps under his belt last year. Will Leveson played well. There's a freshman behind him who is highly touted. It's a complete and total disaster. Now, is he going to get fired? No. There's a $38 million buyout for James Franklin.
Right.
He's not getting fired. It won't shock me if somebody wants him bad enough if they do pay that buyout and he does finally accept an offer, because they're year in and year out, James Franklin is someone other teams want. And while this year is just imploding and it's a lost year already, I don't think that'll change. I think there are some teams like Vanderbilt. Would he go back? I don't know.
No.
He's a Pennsylvania guy. But once you start hearing these footsteps, if there's an opportunity to get out, maybe it is time to get out. And there's not a large portion of the fan base that would be shedding tears if that happens.
Well, I don't think that making a move up there is necessarily the answer right now. We have to remember the situation that we're in, which is tough for everybody. Nobody saw the 0-3 start for Penn State. You got Michigan at 1-2. They're obviously having problems. Coming into the year, we all expected Penn State at this point in time probably be 2-1.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you expect? I didn't expect them to beat Ohio State.
No, okay. No. Realistically, you can't expect that.
Expected a good game, probably, maybe
yes.
Potential for an upset, but not expecting the win.
Yes,
but and even the loss to Indiana is understandable right now. The way they lost sucks. It's the loss to Maryland is what's hurting people.
It's at this point, it's the combination of all three, because Indiana, you saw issues that have creeped up throughout James Franklin's tenure in managing the clock. That's always been an issue, and that happened. Penn State, as poorly as they played and as poorly as Clifford played, did enough to win the game, and then could have won the game by just kneeling out the clock. Instead, that didn't happen. It goes to double overtime. Say what you will about that game-winning play. I happen to think he was in. So then there's that. Then you get Ohio State, and you want that game to be competitive. Sean Clifford said in the media sessions during that week, we're not just trying to hang with Ohio State. We're not here to hang with them. Well, that's good, because you weren't even remotely close to hanging with them. You got pushed all around the field. And you're losing in the trenches, and you're not losing. You're getting dominated. And then you come out against Maryland and looked like a team that had nothing left to play for. in week 3. So there were each game in and of itself were individually frustrating. You put them all together, and it is the bleep show that I think it's fair to say that's what's happening. It's fair to say that's happening at Michigan as well.
You got Nebraska this weekend for Penn State. Nebraska hasn't won a game either. They're 0-2 with a common loss, Ohio State, and then they lost to Northwestern, who, by the way, Pat Fitzgerald has just got them back playing very well, and that's another team out of the Big Ten that I think is surprising this year. You got there. I mean, listen to this in the Big Ten. I mean, just hold on for a second. Listen to this. You have in the East, we all knew about Ohio State at 3-0. You got Indiana at 3-0. You got Maryland at 2-1. Michigan State's 1-2. Michigan's 1-2. Penn State's 0-3. In the West, Nebraska's 0-2. Minnesota's 1-2. Iowa's 1-2. Wisconsin has only played one game, and they're 1-0. And at the top of the league, you got Northwestern at 3-0 and Purdue at 2-0. Raise your hand if you saw that. I think everybody figured Illinois could be 0-3 to start the year, but the rest of that, none of it makes sense.
The Big Ten is defining 2020. It is the definition of 2020 right now.
I mean, even Rutgers at 1-2, even Rutgers at 1-2, they've been blown out the last 2 weeks against Indiana and Ohio State, but they did beat Michigan State, who beat Michigan.
Rutgers is favored in a Big Ten game for the first time in forever. I don't remember the
against
number.
Illinois this week.
And it's the first time they've been favored at a Big Ten game in forever.
Right.
So it's a strange year. Indiana, Ohio State, a top 10 matchup. That's going to happen next week. It's going to be a top 10 Indiana, Ohio State matchup.
That's I think
What?
as long as they both win this weekend, you're talking about game day probably heading to Bloomington next weekend.
Yeah.
For that ball game. Now you bring Florida State into this. If you're talking about dumpster fires, you can't go that deep into the dumpster without Florida State, who gets the big win over North Carolina. They're 2-5 on the year. The other win's Jacksonville State, the game. And it wasn't a big win. It was 41-24. They kind of pulled away.
Yeah, that's when they benched their quarterback and
brought
went
in
to
the Travis.
Yep.
And then they lost to Notre Dame, but they scored 26 points in South Bend, and then they come down and beat North Carolina. Since then, it's back off the rails and probably is going to continue to be. If they don't win at NC State, you're talking about 2-6. Definitely going to be a loss against Clemson, 2-7. Virginia, Duke. I don't know. Might have 3 wins. Of those 3, the biggest dumpster fire is whom?
Well, man, I mean, it's a crowded dumpster.
I mean, well, right now it's Penn State.
I think so.
Florida State beat North Carolina. They were a top 5 team when they beat them.
At least the other 2 teams have wins. Penn State doesn't have a win.
Right.
So
2 different schedules. I get it.
Yep.
Lots happened.
Yep. But I mean, it's Maryland, and I can get it. Tua's brother is good, but he's not going to set the world on fire. Not right now. Don't expect Maryland to go out there and win the majority. They're going to be below 500 this year, but they torched Penn State. Indiana, they're going to be a good team. Their only loss could very well be Michigan or Ohio State.
Sure.
So in many ways, I lean Penn State here because Norvell's a first-year guy at Florida State.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. We know he took over a mess. We know that there were issues inside that locker room anyway. So he gets to some degree a pass. Jim Harbaugh's a disaster, but we knew it was a disaster because he almost didn't survive to last this year.
Right.
And, and then he comes out and they look good week 1. It's, okay. And then, back to Jim Harbaugh. And even Urban Meyer now is saying, I mean, they got issues.
They've got issues.
They do. They're giving up almost 300 yards a game through the air.
Right. Yeah, that's terrible.
That's awful. Penn State has an established coach. They made a move with their OC in the offseason to bring in Minnesota's offensive coordinator. So the idea was, let's get Clifford off his back. Let's open up this offense a little bit more. And instead, it's the opposite. He's getting hit more. He's looking worse. The defense looks lost.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest dumpster fire is Penn State. I think you can throw a couple other teams in right now. But again, I don't think anyone eclipses Penn State right now. I mean, Mississippi State is bad. What's going on there is a problem. Mike Leach is not gelling with those guys. They're bolting the program. But again, he's a first-year guy. Give him give him a second to get his guys in there.
Yeah.
He's never been a guy who immediately turns things around.
What about LSU? I mean, LSU's a dumpster fire, man.
LSU's
and they might not even play this weekend.
Right.
COVID update: Mississippi State, Auburn is postponed. Bama, LSU could be. A&M has positives. Anxious to see what Muschamp has to say about that today because they played in Columbia this weekend, and apparently the one player who had the positive made the trip. So I don't know if he played or how much he played or anything like that. But that's just kind of a side note. But LSU's got issues this year. I think I don't know that anybody expected LSU to come out and be anything remotely close to LSU of last year. But I don't know that anybody expected LSU to be 2-3 in the way that they've lost those 3 games.
Exactly. Because you know that LSU has the guys. I mean, they took some of their opt-outs and defections also in the offseason. But it's LSU, man. They're always among the top in terms of recruiting classes. They've got dudes. They've got first-rounders. They've got NFL talent all around that field. So to look the way that LSU looks, it's a problem. But they are coming off a national championship. They did lose a lot. So the expectation, as you said, wasn't to go back and, go back-to-back here. That wasn't going to happen.
Right.
I think you can make a very, very strong case, and I may have just made it, that the biggest of the dumpster fires in college football right now is Penn State.
Well, I agree. And it's not just because you're sitting here. I think LSU is up there. I'm not going to put Mississippi State there yet because I knew that it would be a kind of a strange year with Mike Leach coming in. That personnel, he's a different animal than what you had in Joe Moorhead and things like that. I don't think anybody saw Penn State at 0-3. Maybe, or certainly a lot of folks saw them at 2-1, potentially at 1-2 because Indiana is pretty good. Not 0-3 with a loss to Maryland. No.
They were 27-point favorites.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's not good.
No,
at all. But other teams do have problems, and the Big Ten is something just really, really strange. We do need to hit a timeout though. When we return, we're going to head to Columbia, and we're going to try to air as much as we can of the Will Muschamp press conference that is set to begin here in just a few moments. Obviously, there's going to be some conversation, I'm sure, that will come up about what has been going on the last couple of days. He'll be asked about the COVID situation with Texas A&M just leaving Columbia. Now they've got some issues and things like that. So this could be an interesting press conference. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, will be right back.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth, and you're listening to my friends JB and Goldwater.
All right, 12:29. Welcome back. Tuesday afternoon, November the 10th. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It's lunch. Get your cheesesteak at DB's. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley and Avondale. DB's Cheesesteaks.com for their entire menu. And remember, they do deliver. And don't forget the boardwalk fries with your next order. Perry Orth, you just heard him there on the bump. He will be here at 1 o'clock this afternoon to talk about the program and the quarterback situation. And we'll briefly look back at the blowout at the
change reps, whittle down reps if you kind of have an idea of who's going to start before Saturday?
I don't think we want to make
Is it there? Back.
of offensive line wise, running back wise, whatever the case may be. But those are the things at the quarterback position we're looking at, and we'll continue to evaluate that and grade those guys.
Kyle Thomas.
Coach, after the Auburn game, we were 2-2, and since then we've had a 2-game losing streak. What are you doing as a coach, and what is your staff doing to make sure that that doesn't turn into a 3-game losing streak?
Well, I mean, we're preparing our football team like we would normally do, and like we did against Vanderbilt, and like we did against Auburn, and obviously the other teams. And we got to play better and coach better on Saturday night.
Mike Yuba.
Well, I'm sure people from the outside, they look at it and it's easy to just look at Colin Hill and just be able to blame him. But when you look at the big picture, of course, it's, the drops, there's some other things going on. Why now? Why look at the decision to make a change now? I try to think back to your first year when you decided to make a change at quarterback when Perry Orth. And so why now in terms of just what you've been seeing and maybe not a little bit earlier in the year?
Well, I think that we'd been pretty productive earlier in the year. I didn't think we had more than 150 yards earlier in the year in a ball game, and I think we lacked a spark on Saturday to get things going. And sometimes the change up is at that position. That position can affect more people than any other position on the offensive side of the ball. With the way we're structured offensively, I agree with you. It's not all in that position. We need to play better around that position. We need to have more people step up at the wideout position outside of Shi Smith. We need to continue to take advantage of the tight end position. We need to run the ball better, and there's a lot of things. But we need a spark on offense. That we averaged 8 yards a play against LSU. We've done some really good things offensively and moving the ball, but we needed a spark. And moving forward, competition hopefully provides that spark.
Chandler Mack.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, kind of touching on what you talked about in the last question. You guys have been outscored 100-27 your past 2 games, and it seemed like you guys had a great flow to your games, even in the Vanderbilt game, and then the Auburn game. You guys had a great flow to the game. And even in the games that you guys lost against Florida and Tennessee, can you just tell me about what are some of the things you feel the team needs to get back to in order to win? Is it just the quarterback play, or is it run the ball more? Can you talk to us about that?
It's in all 3 phases. You give up 14 points on the road in Baton Rouge when your defense isn't on the field. Your defense doesn't force a punt. It has struggles to stop the run, force them to, we're not very good on 1st and 10, so that creates issues for you on 3rd down defensively. Saturday night we get worn down defensively because we can't stay on the field nor get off the field on defense. So it's a lot of different things that we can improve on, and then we certainly are addressing with our team, and we'll continue to address with our team. But it isn't just quarterback play. We got a lot more issues other than that in the last 2 ball games.
Ben Brenner.
Will, this week, have you had any conversations with Coach Tanner about just kind of where things stand in the state of the program?
Coach Tanner and I talk all the time about where we are and what we need to do to be successful, and everything's been very positive.
What kind of message did he have for you this week?
Just been very supportive like he's been for the previous 4 years.
John Whittle.
Yeah, with regard to Paul Jackson, now that you have 6 games under your belt, how do you see your team differently this year under him, whether it's from a physicality standpoint, health standpoint? Just What has he brought that you've been able to see tangibly over these 6 games to now?
Well, I think that as much as anything, John, the guys embracing the weight room, the mentality of when our guys lift, our non-travel guys and guys that aren't playing a lot of snaps, maybe a guy's traveling, but he's not necessarily playing a lot of snaps. Those guys are getting 3 good lifts in at least during the week, and then the guys that are playing a lot are getting 2 good lifts in a week. And the embrace that they have going in the weight room from that standpoint, I don't even want to bring it up, but we've had less soft tissue issues, knock on wood, than we've had in the last 2 seasons, obviously. As far as those things are concerned, much that's been cut to a great degree. I think a lot of that's the monitoring of the catapult system, the interaction he and I have as far as where he thinks guys are is where I think guys are. Sometimes as a football coach, you see it different than a strength coach sees it or a trainer sees it. So we've had, very productive conversations, as far as that's concerned, that I think's helped us a lot. So I think Paul does a really good job. I think from a standpoint of, just overall, mentality of your football team and positively affecting guys, does a really good job. And his staff as well.
Dick Cox.
After watching the film, what positive things could you take from Saturday night? And do you think this team, what did they actually learn from their experience Saturday night?
I don't know that we could take much from the film offensively that was positive at all. I do think defensive we were firmer on some blocks. We played better inside than we had played. I thought there were some positives there. And I thought on special teams that we did a good job. Kai Kroger continues to come on for us. I mean, there's positives, Dick. I mean, it's not all negative. But when the score ends up the way it ends up, it's not very good. And that's the bottom line, and it's got to get better.
Mitch Brown.
And I would say, Dick, I'd add to that. I mean, we've kind of moved on. We have a 24-hour rule around here, and we rehashed all of that technically on Sunday, and we've moved on to Ole Miss. So a lot of it's not fresh in my mind moving forward, other than the things that I know that we've got to get better.
Coach, speaking of moving on, in years past, you've talked about certain iterations of your team having the confidence and the resiliency to be able to bounce back from adversity. What gives you confidence that this team can do that?
I think we have good leadership on the team, and we had a good meeting this morning with those guys about where we are, and I think we're in a good spot mentally, based on, 2 very poor performances back-to-back, as good as it could be. As far as where these guys are angry, they're upset, and they want to play better. We need to coach better. So it's a 2-way street, and we plan on doing both.
Pete Huckabelly.
Will, I know you guys got the word from Texas A&M about their COVID tests. Has that had any effect on this team? Have you had to keep some guys out because of quarantine issues or anything like that?
No, Pete, and when I saw that, I guess it was yesterday it came out, I think. Yeah. I saw it, and I called Clint Haggard immediately, and he said, we have no issues. It's very similar to the Vanderbilt game. As far as however they compute that, you'd probably have to talk to Clint Haggard for exactly how that's done. All I know is no one's been quarantined.
John Del Bianco.
Yeah, well, do you feel you still have the right combination up front on the offensive line? Do you see any changes, or are the best 5 still out there in your opinion?
Well, Ja'Kai Moore's going to get some more opportunities, to play, and Vershawn Lee continues to come on for us. Jalen Nichols has been continuing to improve. Vinny Murphy. So again, we'll continue to work through, giving some more guys some other opportunities, and we'll settle on some things as the latter part of the week settles in for what we'll do in Oxford.
David Cloninger.
Well, a couple for you. First, will Sterling and Mullins be okay for this week?
I believe so, yeah.
And then you've mentioned the other receivers outside of Shai needing to, kind of step up a few times. What has been the biggest reason why no one really has through 6 games?
I think we've given some guys opportunities, and whether it's drop passes or not run, the route the precise way, whether those things are all issues. So we got to catch the ball. Number one. Number two, when your number's called, let's make sure you're precise in what you're doing route-wise, and those sort of things are concerned, because that obviously throws off timing for the quarterback in the play. So I think those things are all all-encompassing, and those are the two main issues that we've got. Just be more dependable in what we're doing.
Phil Kornblut.
Yeah, hey, Will. You went through a difficult finish during your time at Florida. What do you take from that can help you here at South Carolina as you try to work your way through what you're going through?
Win games.
Chandler Mack.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, just kind of talking about the receivers again. Jalen had a big drop in the game. Jalen Brooks had a big drop in the game Saturday night. What has his mindset been over the past couple of days? Has he been more engaged? And receivers as a whole, have they taken more, turns at the jug machine just to make sure that they're precise and they're catching the way they need to?
Well, they're always on the jugs machine. We've amped that up a little bit, but Jalen's going to be fine. Jalen's a good football player, and he's going to have that same opportunity on Saturday in Oxford, and he'll make the catch. He's a good player, and he didn't try and drop it, and it happens. And but he's an outstanding young man. Glad he's in our program, and he'll have some opportunities on Saturday night, and he's going to make those plays.
Mike Yuba.
Well, a couple times this season when you guys have been down in the red zone, I know they've had some rub routes. I'm not trying to get you in trouble in terms of how you're going to answer this, but I know there's been some of those rub routes, those pick routes. In your mind, though, because I know you guys are usually in man coverage, what is the benefit of playing man? And I'm sure that changes week to week and even sometimes play to play in the red zone. But what is the benefit, though, of playing man that keeps creating these situations? Unfortunately.
Well, another thing, and I would go back to Dick's question, is we had 3 opportunities in the first half to make stops in the red zone and make them kick field goals in all critical third down situations. When we don't convert, and you look at the Auburn game, a game that you have success in, you made some stops in the red zone to force them to field goals, and that was that was critical in the first half there. But we do play zone down there as well. And we have been rubbed a little bit, and that's part of it. We've got to do a better job coaching our guys of anticipating. Most teams run those routes the same way game after game. They very rarely change things up as far as how they get to it. They may change that up, but how they run it and who runs it normally is not a huge difference. We should have been pressed outside on the first touchdown in the game against Texas A&M because that's where the rub was always coming from. We didn't. We pressed inside and we played off outside, and that's why we got picked. So those things happen, and if they see it's a penalty, they're going to throw it. If they don't, then they won't. And that's just kind of, we explained to our guys, if they throw a flag for holding, it's holding. If they don't, it's not holding. So that's the way we look at it.
Colin Taylor.
Yeah, well, you kind of touched on Ole Miss's vertical passing game. It's kind of an explosive offense. You guys have had some struggles defensively in the secondary. Is it just, how do you kind of game plan for that? And is it just coaching them better? Kind of how do you address that situation going into this week?
Well, I think as much as anything, the vertical balls, we got to keep guys cut off down the field, whether we're in a quarters concept or whether we're in a middle field man or zone concept or whatever the case may be. Switch up coverages a little bit more to maybe give him a different look. You can affect the quarterback not only by rushing the passer, but changing the look for him for something he may expect and do something different, which we do a lot. We need to do in this ball game as well. So I think that those are all things that we can do to help ourselves and continuing to mix man and zone and pattern match. But continue to mix those things up because, defensive football is like war. If you line up over and over again in the same spot, eventually, especially in the passing game, and they know the pitcher they're going to get, then you're going to probably get hurt. So we got to continue to mix things up and change the pitcher for him. That sometimes is difficult because of the tempo. Because you want to make sure you get your cleats in the dirt and line up and you cover down and you got your eyes in the right spot. And that's why a lot of the deception things that they create, especially with good skill people, create issues for you.
Dick Cox.
Can you talk about the opportunity of going on the road this Saturday and maybe hopefully getting your team away from any distractions they've got right now and just being coaches and players?
I'd love to be back in Williams-Brice Stadium playing again. That's where we want to play. But on the schedule, we're going to Oxford, so that's where we're headed.
Ben Briner.
Well, with how things have gone of late, and I guess kind of the mood that seems to be settling outside the building, does any part of you get worried about your own job security?
No.
Fair enough.
Any other questions for Coach? See anything? All right. That
Have
is
a
a wrap
great
for
day.
today then.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Coach.
period. That's who he called out. And if you take offense to that, and that leads you to just shut down and not support the program, then don't. That's okay. But don't take offense to it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Get off of social media if you feel like you need to bash a kid for actually coming out and saying what was on his heart instead of all this BS flutter fluff crap that we hear every week from players across the country. Well, I don't listen to it. The fans have every right to yada, yada. If you can't handle the truth, then remove yourself from it. Just remove yourself from it. They have to listen to the booing. They have to listen to it. They have the right to respond if they want to. Period.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple, Darren. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's ridiculous. You want to get more players in this program and you're going to get on there and rip kids apart? Give me a break. Give me a break. Perry Orth is up next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. Cheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty
Live, loud, and online.
104, welcome back. Final hour here on a Tuesday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, and Perry Orr set to join us here in just a moment. We listened to the Will Muschamp press conference in its entirety, and go back and listen or watch if you missed it as well. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, and individually at Darren Goldwater and at Sports Radio JB. All right, Perry Orth, the former quarterback in South Carolina, joins us now on Twitter at PerryOrth10. He's the owner of QB1 Athletics. Head to QB1Athletics.com. Also in the insurance business, IMGSC.com as well. What's up, man?
Man, just trying to do the same thing you guys are doing, break down the game from Saturday.
Yeah, let me give me a second here. Perry, the players spoke today, right? You remember this, right? When reporters stick microphones in your face and ask you how you feel. You remember how that goes? And
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, and there are times when you as a player are supposed to be a little bit fluffy with your answer, and then there's times as a player when you feel like you just need to say what's on your mind. And these fans, not the fan base, fans, there are fans in every group in the country that pull for every program in the country. There are certain ones that some go to the games, some don't, of course. And they know more than everybody. And then today, you have guys like Nick Muse who stand up and they say, look, the Karens and the couch coaches, they know a lot more than our coaches, apparently. My dad has a saying, he can say whatever he wants, but he's just a fat dad in the stands. What he's referencing there is fans don't necessarily know what's going on in the locker room, on the sidelines, in the headsets, on the field, things like that. And he's criticized. And then J.C. Horn defends him. And then he's criticized. And, Perry, if all these fans, if there are fans who are taking offense to players calling them out and they feel like that player is speaking directly to them, then it's probably you that they're calling out, and it's probably you that doesn't know what you're talking about. And so my message to them would be really clear. If you think that you can get on message boards and get on your Twitter handle and get on Facebook and pay your money and go sit in the stands and criticize, what you have every right to do, even when you might not know what you're talking about, the players who put the uniform on, they have every right to criticize your criticism, or at least to try to laugh it off and make fun of it. And if you can't handle that and you want to continue to say that you're just done, then be done. But stop saying things and then not willing to accept a response. I'm going to leave it there, but you're a former player and you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah, well, that kind of culture seems to be the theme in today's world, especially when you got a certain half of the country that can't take criticism and can't take somebody disagreeing with their opinions on certain topics, and we'll leave that there. But, I mean, we all do. We as fans, former players, radio people, you guys get paid to do it. I lived it. I was criticized. Now I'm in the couch potato kind of role, where I can sit back and say, okay, well, this is what I saw and this is my opinion. But one thing that we are just so eager to do, and people are, is just just throw in the towel, blame everybody for everything, and everybody sucks, and X, Y, and Z. And it's not fair. It's just the reality of it. But listen, you as a player, you as a coach, when you come to a Division I school, you know exactly what you signed up for. You know exactly what you're getting yourself into, and you can stick up for yourself, and I'm fine. But if you're going to get your panties in a wad because you're getting or taking any criticism, well, then you're just in the wrong field. And that goes for the people dishing out the criticism. If you can't take some yourself, then you're just kind of a pansy in my book anyway. I'll sit here and tell you guys what I saw, and obviously wasn't good, and they'll be the first ones to tell you it wasn't good. I thought the coaching was poor. I thought the playing was poor, but I should be able to take criticism on anything that I do too if I'm going to be willing to dish it out, right? So that'd be like somebody telling me that they don't agree with or my process of selling insurance or coaching quarterbacks is not right. Well, I should be able to take that. But today, man, everybody's looking to point the finger, and, they can dish it all day, but they're not willing to take it. But talking Carolina football, I like that the guys, they should be sticking up for their coach. If I was in the locker room too, I would do the same for my coaches as well. So that right there shows you that the program is not, in disarray, that they've lost all facets of the operation over there. But as far as winning football games, that's been a struggle. Yeah,
there's no question. And I agree. I mean, I don't want to get too frustrated with people because everybody has a right to say what they want to say, but so do the players. I mean, so do they. I mean, these guys, you're right. It was a poor performance in every way, shape, and form this past weekend. It's back-to-back. There's a couple things you could take out of that LSU game that were positive but for the most part, not really. And yeah, it's been a couple of poor weeks. But I'm with you. I like seeing the fact that the players are willing to defend their coach. I like seeing the fact that the players are willing to say things that some fans just don't want to believe. It is shocking, believe it or not. It might be shocking to some of you that you actually don't know as much as you think you know. And don't get your feelings hurt when one of the players stands up and says that, because that just needs to be said sometimes. So good for Nick Muse for saying what he said. As far as the football team, Perry, yeah, they're struggling. And we all know, that what is surrounding this program right now, the future of Will Muschamp, they really need to win this week at Ole Miss. It does appear there will be a quarterback change, although Coach Muschamp not fully committal on who that would be and when that decision would be made. Expecting it, though, to be after the walkthrough. Ryan has been taking a bunch with the ones this week, and Luke Doty has been taking a bunch of snaps as well and some packages for him. Over the last couple of weeks, go ahead and evaluate Colin Hill and those back-to-back games combined and what it means when they say we need a, quote, spark at quarterback. What exactly does that mean?
That means they're making a switch. I've been on both ends of that.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
When you're the incumbent and they're looking for a spark, you're done. Unless you go out and have just the few practices of your life, With that being said, I mean, unfortunately, he hasn't played very well. I thought the LSU game was kind of an outlier, but it's difficult when you have receivers that really have a hard time getting open and have a hard time catching the football, and he's not exactly the most mobile, so he gets in these situations where he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place of I can't scramble, but I don't have anyone to throw the ball to. So that's tough, and that's why it leads me to believe that Luke Doty will probably play a bit more because you can run him more, so you're not always required to get into the drop-back pass world. You can roll him out. You can a lot of RPOs, a lot of different opportunities for him to get the ball in space, and whether it's him throwing it or him running it himself. So I could see them going to Ryan on Saturday with a lot of Luke, and if things go bad early, I could see them just giving it to Luke and letting him run with it. So we'll see. I mean, the reality is if he had 3 or 4 NFL receivers, or Debo or Brian, or he maybe had the staff that Jake, or the receiving core that Jake had a couple of years ago with Debo, Brian, and Hayden, I think that this offense fits perfectly. But when you got guys that, they struggle getting open and they struggle catching the football, it's going to put a drop back quarterback in really difficult situations.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. All right, Ryan slings it. We know he does. We watched him start 11 games last year. Perry, he'll drop back there and he'll let it rip. Is that maybe something that could be beneficial here moving down the stretch? I know that I think he threw 6 passes the other night. I think he targeted Shi Smith 5 of those 6 times. Can't say I blame him. I mean, Shi Smith's the guy that catches the ball. I mean, that's who you're gonna throw to the guy that can catch.
Yep.
But is that beneficial in the fact that Ryan Olinsky, he might just be the guy? He's going to drop back. He's going to read one, and if it's there, he's going to throw it. And he might read that second one. If he's there, he's going to throw it. But either way, he's going to throw it.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, you've got to have somebody who may or may not turn the ball over. I mean, we've got to do something, some kind of a spark is exactly right. We've got to have more than what we've had. And you can blame that on one person. You can blame it on a lot of people. It's just we haven't been getting the production out of that position that we need the last 2 weeks. And, I don't know how the Auburn game goes without all the turnovers they had. So you never know. I think that, Texas A&M is pretty daggone good this year. I think this is the best team that we've had to play as South Carolina has played Texas A&M over the last 6 or 7 years or whatever it's been.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, they who's the other team I'm thinking of? I'm sorry. Oh, LSU.
Yeah.
LSU is also better in my opinion than the team that we thought we were going to play. So, with that being said, we've got 4 games left, 3 of which I believe are very, very, very winnable. If we can somehow find a way to shake these last 2 games off and get some confidence on offense and heck, more importantly, probably defense. I know we only scored 3 points, but the defense wasn't exactly it either. But we match up better with some of these other lesser teams. So we can still go out there and win 3 of these last 4. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but we still can. And so as a player, you've got to have that mindset going to finish the year.
It's a different offense right now. I mean, I know that the offense has struggled the last couple of weeks, but last year when the offense is struggling, Mike Bobo wasn't leading that offense. He is this time. And I think a lot of the football team has faith that he can help get him out of it. Let me go back to 2015 with you. Let's go back to the start of the year. And as the season unfolded, Perry, the rumblings that Coach Spurrier might not be around a while and things like that. If you recall, maybe about a year before that, Steve was asked how much longer he'd be around. Oh, probably 2 or 3 more years, and that took a toll on recruiting classes, and people really started talking at that point in time, how long is Steve Spurrier going to be around? And then he ended up resigning in the middle of your junior season. So, but before he resigned, what were y'all going through as a team when you knew what the outside world was saying? Is Spurrier going to be around? Is he not going to be around? This team's not very good. How did you handle that internally, and how can that translate to what this team is going through?
Well, I think with us is that, fortunately, a lot of people don't think that it was a good decision for Coach Spurrier to stop in the middle of the year. But as a player during that time, it made sense because it just had a completely different feel. But then when Coach Elliott took over, I would say that with all of the uncertainty and the confusion around what was next, the only thing that we could control was our performance on Saturday. And I think going on as far as saying, we don't know who our head coach will be next year. We may not even know who's going to be our head coach next week. You as a player, you can't really sit there and dwell on that. The only thing that you can dwell on is Ole Miss, is the team that's coming up next on your schedule. To be honest, guys, maybe it was different for some of the other guys, but for me, there's so much that goes into playing a football game for a quarterback that you have to – it's almost like your mind is so consumed with the opponent and what they're doing that you don't have time to even worry about all the outside noise that comes with it. But with that being said, there is a lot of outside noise right now, and we talk about a lot about this with our company at Brown & Brown is that, you only can control the controllables. And what's that? That's basically your attitude and effort and your preparation of what you're going to do. So I hate to sound cliche, but if they don't focus on that, they'll go 2-8. But if they do, if they focus on what they can control, they can actually finish out the season on a pretty high note. They've got 3 very winnable games, and if they focus on that, I think you'll see a different team Saturday. But if not, you'll see the same team that you've seen through the first 6 games of just kind of a lackluster walk around, no real energy, no real enthusiasm, and just kind of a bland style of football.
Perry Orth, the former quarterback of South Carolina 120 here on a Tuesday afternoon. But, to summarize kind of what you said there, Perry, you do know what's being said, right? Like, you're not oblivious to the outside world. When people are saying things about your program, your coach, things like that, is he going to be here? Is he not? Speculating who the next head coach is going to be and stuff like that. The players hear it, don't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, because of social media, you do. Now, it's not like some of the older times where you'd have to actually pick up a newspaper to read something. You're going on Twitter to scroll through and see what's going on in the world. And, you know, as a football player, you're going to follow different football accounts, especially the ones that have to do with South Carolina. And you're going to see, you know, Hugh Freeze, you know, next in line to come to South Carolina and X, Y, and Z. And you're just sitting here thinking like, wow, because of my terrible performance on Saturday, now my coach is getting talked about getting this job, you know, canned. So
wow,
you got to take some kind of a pride to it. I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot more on these guys than you think than just going out and playing football on Saturday. So I'm hopeful that these guys will have a little bit more pride. And, you know, we can blame Coach Muschamp. I talked about this morning in Columbia. We can blame Muschamp and the coaches and blah blah blah, but at the end of the day, it's still a player's game, and the players got to hold each other accountable to play better than that. Listen, my example I gave this morning is we were 3-9 in 2015. I mean, just absolutely terrible. You would never, and especially the years prior to that, would imagine South Carolina going 3-9. Well, when we played, we never just bent over and just said, okay, we're gonna play for 3.5 hours, but regardless of the score, we're just gonna kind of go through the motions. We still played hard and made every game that we played in a competitive game where you couldn't turn the TV off until the final seconds had hit.
That's true.
These guys, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people this year that have turned the game off in the second quarter.
Right.
I mean, just because, not because we were getting blown out, but because of the effort that we were playing with, and that has nothing to do with the coaches. I guess it does as far as motivation, but these guys got to step it up, man. I mean, as a former athlete, and a guy that loves South Carolina athletics and football, I mean, you should take more pride in the way that just the effort. You know, you can't exactly predict the outcome of what happens in your performance, but you can play with a whole sense of urgency that's different. I think that if they did that, it'd really help them, because back in the year we went 3-9, if we would have just limped around throughout the rest of the year, you know, we could have really gotten blown out. But at least people will respect the fact that you played hard. And I want to see these guys really play hard. And this is not me bashing anybody. This is me telling it how I see it. I want to see more effort out of the guys. I mean, everybody wants to blame everybody else, but the reality is the guys that are out on the field playing defense are the ones playing defense, not Coach Muschamp or T-Rob or you or I. I mean, they got to go out there with a sense of urgency and a passion to play better. And if not, then we'll continue to lose. And if we do, we'll win some ball games.
Perry Orth's with us now, and you, I mean, obviously the guys are hearing it. You said it. You scroll through social media and you see it. And Jamie and I were saying the same thing. If the players are sitting here saying, "I'd take a bullet for Coach Muschamp," all of the players who have played for him and have been public about it, they love this guy, so they have to go out and play for him. Is it fair to say to the players, look, man, if you like this guy this much, then go show it. Go prove that you like this guy this much and show that effort on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's see it. I mean, like I said, you can't control the outcome or quote unquote your performance. You can just control your attitude and your effort and the energy of which you play. I mean, if you're really, you know, lighting the world on fire because you want to battle for Coach Muschamp, show it. Let's see it. Let's see guys getting big hits on defense and turning the football over on defense, and guys on offense finishing blocks and running the football hard, which we don't really have an issue with. That kid's a stud. But, you know, different outcomes like that will show me your passion for the coach. And he's right. I mean, Coach Muschamp's a great guy. I still have a relationship with him and his family to this day because of the way that he coached me in the 9 months we were together. So I want the guys to play hard for him, but, you know, that's got to be between them and their teammates. You know, I'm just the insurance guy now.
Well, what's so great about Coach Muschamp, Perry?
He cares about the kids, man. I mean, he cares about you. I mean, that the old adage that says, you know, people don't care how much you know until you show them how much you care. I mean, he cares about his guys. I mean, I went and visited with him. I had to go and drop something off to the facility over there last November, December, and Coach Muschamp was in his office, and he heard I was in the building and called me up to go visit with him. I mean, there aren't too many head coaches that are busy recruiting and busy doing X, Y, and Z that are wanting to call and check in with a guy that played for him for eight or 9 months. So He cares about the players. He puts the players first. He does everything he can to give the kids the best chance to succeed, outside of football. So you would want to see a little bit more out of the players as far as, he gives them a lot. Whether you agree with his football X's and O's or the way in-game management is handled, that is what it is. But as a player, if you really care about them like you say you do, go out there and at least show it.
I can, on a much smaller scale, I can speak to what you're saying because I've spoken with him quite a few times since he's been in Columbia, and the most common question I've ever had out of Will Muschamp is, "How are you?" Mm-hmm. Why does he care how I'm doing? But he asks, and and I've always gotten that. At the same time, my head's not buried in the sand, and neither is yours, Perry. We know he's a wonderful guy. We know he knows defense. He wouldn't be a head coach if he didn't do what he's done in his career defensively. But we also know that Saturdays have been unkind to Will Muschamp, especially in the last couple of years. I know we haven't discussed much about the Ole Miss game, but when you look back, a stat that I came up with this past week, and I've just added on to it, Perry, the first 2 years here, South Carolina gave up 30 or more points on defense under Will Muschamp and T-Rob 4 times. In the last now 31 games, they've given up 30 or more points 15 times. And I think they've got better players than what they had when he started here. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I really don't. I think, to be honest, man, I'll disagree with you. I think that we had better players back then.
Oh, okay.
That's such an unpopular take.
Okay.
I really do. I really think that you look back at his best year here when we were 9-4, and look at our defense. Taylor Stallworth is playing in the NFL right now. Sky Moore.
That's true.
Playing in the NFL right now. Chris Lamons, Rashad Fenton, all playing in the NFL right now. Who else? I know Dante Sawyer had a chance to make it to the NFL, played in a couple camps, was a pretty solid college player. We had dudes on defense. People just, we went 3-9 and they blame Spurrier and say, "Oh, the cupboard was bare." Well, the reality is that's not the case. You look at Debo and Hayden on offense, and I think that there were a lot of really good skilled players, and a lot of good players in general that helped contribute. I'm not saying that the recruiting's been bad. I'm just saying that I think that we really did. There were better players than there are now. I think J.C. Horn's really good. He would have obviously started on that team. Maybe Ernest Jones as well. But besides that, I don't know some of the other guys. Maybe on the fronts of the football they disagree, but I think they're better players, and I think they played harder. I think Coach Muschamp really earned our respect of my senior class and the guys that came after me. And we really did take a pride in playing hard for them. We weren't the greatest team. There's no hiding that, but I don't ever remember hearing about our lack of motivation or our effort. We always played really hard. So I'd like to see the guys do that. I took a different spin on it today than instead of just saying, let's fire our coaches and fire everybody and let's hold the players. I'll hold the players accountable this week. And if they go out and play hard, there's bad coaching decisions to put them in bad positions, then we'll talk about the coaches next week.
Well, but I don't disagree with the stance that you took at all. I think you took the right stance. The players do need to be held accountable, and as a former player, you understand that as much as anybody. I think most of these players understand that. The coaches need to be held accountable too, and most importantly, because they're the ones who actually end up holding players accountable at the end of the day, right, Perry? So it is a collective effort, and it does need to be better. And I liked what you said earlier. As much everybody right now wants to be pessimistic and everybody wants to be negative, and I understand that. They have every right to be, and they have every reason for that. Being outscored 100-27 in the last 2 games is terrible. People are seeing similarities to last year. What have you done after you won a big game? Last year they beat Georgia. They did nothing. This year they beat Auburn. They've done nothing thus far, but they do still have 4 opportunities, Perry, and 3 of those opportunities, I still believe that they're the better football team than Ole Miss, Missouri, and Kentucky. We just need to see them play like it. They beat Georgia last year, and Georgia comes to your house, and Georgia right now does not look unbeatable at all. So there are opportunities. Here's Ole Miss, who's not beaten South Carolina since 2004. Now, Gamecocks only played them 3 times since then, but they've won all 3, including that game 2 years ago, this 48-44 contest in 2018. And, Perry, my gut tells me they're going to need to probably score 40-plus again this week. I don't think they can lean on the defense, and Ole Miss's defense is really bad.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to score points this week. We're going to have the opportunity to do that. I don't think they're very good on defense, and offensively, they're going to throw it all over the yard. I mean, they scored 40-something on Alabama, so I don't exactly expect us to go out and hold them under 28. So it's up to the offense this week. If we want to win, we better get ready to score and score a lot. I'd love to see us go out there and shut them down on defense, but that is yet to be proven, so we will find out on Saturday.
It did happen, though, in 2009. That was the birth of Sandstorm at South Carolina back in September when Ole Miss was 4th in the country. Gamecocks won that game 16-10 under Steve Spurrier. Perry, we'll let you go on that note, and I know, unfortunately, a lot of today's conversation wasn't specifics about in-game strategy and things like that, but obviously with what's been swirling, I felt like it was right to get your opinion. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said today. I think you said it perfect, man, and it's good to have a voice like that out there. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no doubt. Excited to watch them on Saturday. I mean, regardless, you're a fan, you got to support your team, so we're going to do that.
You would like to hope so, right? You'd like to hope that more people would say.
Only one would hope.
Yeah, only one would hope. QB1athletics.com. If you think, for all the Uncle Ricos that I saw in the stands this past weekend, QB1athletics.com. Perry can sharpen your skills, and you can go try out next year. QB1athletics.com. And if you need insurance, IMGSC.com. IMGSC.com. That's Insurance Management Group, South Carolina, for business, personal. Perry can do it all. He's, like you said, he's the insurance man now. Perry, thanks, bud. Have a wonderful week, brother. Hopefully when we talk next week, Carolina is a little bit closer to 500, okay?
Yep, no doubt. I'm believing for it.
There you go, man. Thanks, bud. There you go. The former quarterback of South Carolina, our friend Perry Orth. All right, head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. Reserve your spot for our social event at Paddock and Whiskey. It's our first Bourbon and Whiskey Club social the Friday after Thanksgiving, November the 27th. If you go to jbandgoldwatershow.com, you just reserve it. You don't have to pay anything or anything like that. jbandgoldwatershow.com. Just click reserve, who all you're going to bring with you. We're going to start it at noon. It's going to go all day. We'll do our show live out there. Select bourbons like the barrel picks and all that stuff. There's going to be football on, a food truck. It's going to be a lot of fun right there on Maybank Highway on James Island at Paddock and Whiskey. So jbandgoldwatershow.com to reserve your spot for that. We look forward to seeing everybody certainly here in just a couple of weeks. We always look forward to speaking with Gene Sapikoff. He's up next on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee, but guess what? I can always listen to the JB and Goldwater Show because they are always live, loud, and online.
Pink, 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 pink,
And you can hear this song live on Friday night by going to PatrickDavisMusic.com because he'll be in town down at the Charleston Music Hall. Socially distanced show, only 250 allowed, and I talked to Patrick last night. There are not many tickets left.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
PatrickDavisMusic.com, and he will play Big Old Cock this week. If you're a Carolina fan, he will play that. But this is not a Carolina show. This is it's a music.
It's a Patrick Davis show.
Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
all music. So PatrickDavisMusic.com to scoop up those last few tickets. Would love to see you there. I'll be down there. Looking forward to that, certainly. All right, Gene Sapkoff joining us here on a Tuesday afternoon. We'll wind down with him. Kind of a boring week, Gene. Unfortunately, here I thought more would be going on this time of the year, but in the sports world with COVID, it's just kind of shut itself down.
Yeah, it's a typical November. Notre Dame is in first place in ACC football. There's a Masters in Augusta going on. And, Gamecock fans don't seem real pleased with the head coach. One of those things is fairly typical, and two are not.
Oh, that's true. Oh, well played there. Yeah, Gene, we'll just we're going to get to the Masters. We're going to get to Notre Dame and Clemson, but we'll continue this trend and just start with what's going on in Columbia right now. Will Muschamp today, Gene, his posture, his tone just seemed noticeably different to me. I think there's a multitude of reasons why that could be. Obviously, how did he appear to you?
I did not hear any of that. I was in some press conferences at the Masters, so you're going to have to fill me in. Was it more upbeat or downbeat or what?
Yeah, subdued. He was asked some direct questions. I think Ben and David and Rick Henry was hey, believe it or not, let's check this out. You talk about a weird November. Rick Henry got the first question today over Cloninger. The world is changing quick, Gene.
That might signify the way things are going this season. But hey, Rick Henry, what a great guy, and we're all in his corner for sure. But I'm sure David Cloninger got a little bit of a kick out of that.
Yeah.
If they win, I assure you it's going to happen again next week.
Oh, if they win, Fink
no doubt, Darren.
Yeah, if they win, Fink will not allow DC.
Nope.
No, he just seemed subdued. He was asked some direct questions, and he just said no. Really simple one-word answers. Gene, when Will gives the one-word answer, he doesn't want to talk about it. Is it affecting you? Nope. Have you heard anything? Nope. He was asked about Ray Tanner. Have they had conversations? Yes, we always do. What'd he say? He's supportive. Okay. That leads me to believe he certainly heard the outside noise. I think the bigger story today, as far as that is concerned, is the players being asked. They're all defending Will Muschamp wholeheartedly. Nick Muse said some funny things. Some fans are all upset about that, but I'd remind the fans, if you can say what you want to say, so can the players. Unfortunately, it is a mess right now as they head into the back half of the season, Gene, and I think they've got winnable games there.
Well, that's what I've said since the start of the season as far as these games coming up. I think Ole Miss and Missouri are two of the three most winnable games. And, believe me, as a columnist, I like to be quick to judge and quick to speculate and everything like that. But I think you really have to wait till 2 weeks from now and see where they are after those two games. And then, there'll just be a couple games left, and the decision, I think, would maybe make itself.
Some of the things I've heard, Gene, I don't get me wrong, I don't ever open this microphone and say something that I would believe to totally be false. So when I say this, I do believe there's some truth in it. There are some things floating around that it really might be a week-to-week base or a case right here and right now for Will Muschamp and his tenure at South Carolina. Is that something that you think what could be true?
Yeah, well, first of all, in this situation, you have a new president at the school, and you have an athletic director who's never fired a football coach. I mean, a change was made, but Steve Spurrier essentially made that change himself. I mean, Ray Tanner did not fire Steve Spurrier and would not have fired Steve Spurrier. So this isn't the same thing. So you got to ask the question, whose decision is this? Is this going to be Bob Castle's? Is this going to be Ray Tanner or some mix of that? I think it's going to be Bob Castle's. And because of that, it's very unpredictable when you just don't know exactly how this guy goes about thinking, other than he thinks he fixed Army football, and maybe he did, helping shepherd in Coach Monken, who certainly did turn things around there in West Point.
I think it's irresponsible to sit here and speculate on who maybe a new coach would be at South Carolina. So we'll leave that conversation for further down the road if it ever really needs to be had. But there are those that question whether Ray Tanner should be the one that makes that decision, Gene. Is that a fair question?
Absolutely, because even if you think that Ray's only going to be around a year or two, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he should have 100% control. Now, 100%. There'll be committees, and he'll consult, and influential boosters, and Bob Caslin will have a lot of say. But yeah, it's certainly a fair question to answer your question.
How much has I hadn't heard, and maybe it's just because I hadn't paid much attention to it. You dropped in there, Caslin believes he fixed Army football there with Monken. How popular is that opinion of yours? I mean, is that a widely held belief? Because if so, then it does make some sense then to believe that, all right, I fixed Army football, I can go fix this thing.
Well, before Monken came, they were getting pounded by Navy consistently. Since Monken came, they've turned that around significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Caslin, at the very least, presided over that. School presidents tend to take credit for what happens in the athletic department when they're the school president. Steve Spurrier doing great. The South Carolina Gamecock program in baseball, winning a couple World Series. That looks great for the president, whether or not he had a single thing to do with it except pat people on the back. But that's how it goes. And believe me, Bob Caslin is very proud of what happened in football at Army while he was the superintendent of the cadets.
On Twitter at Sapikoff, Gene Sapikoff 140 here on a Tuesday. Gene, I put out a little piece yesterday that is not necessarily in depth on who they should hire and why, and this. It's a conversation about what actually is going into this decision. As we know, fans are fans. They like to just throw names out there, like I don't know, Urban Meyer, dig up Newt Rockne, rehire Lou Holtz, things like that. But there are other pieces to this. There are buyouts included. Everybody looks at the buyout for Will Muschamp. There is more to that. And, John Whittle on the Big Spur today put out a great piece that buyout isn't necessarily writing a $13 million check. There's a little bit more to it. But, Gene, there are also buyouts. If there's another coach that you've got your eye on and you need to go get him and he's got a big buyout, you're going to have to pay it. You've got assistant coaches that you're going to have to pay. All of this, Gene, in the middle of a pandemic where there have been staffers and other coaches and folks at South Carolina who have taken pay cuts. There have been folks who have been let go. How about the optics of that and what it looks like to make a maybe $20, $30 million college football coaching change in the middle of a pandemic when you are already up against it from a financial standpoint?
I think you've got to ask yourself, what's more costly to your university and to your athletic department, apathy or enthusiasm? And that's going to be a tough thing. It almost goes to what's more important to you in your life, regret or sacrifice. And I think those are the decisions that are going to have to be made there. You're right. The money, on the one hand, there's going to be offsets and negotiations that will make that $13.2 million for Muschamp not quite there, but also assistant coaches involved. And yeah, you have to pay, the price for a good coach coming in. Let me just throw something out there, though. Never in coaching searches in South Carolina football history, or at least in the last 50 years, have they gotten the best or second best guy on the market. And to think that they're going to get one of these very hot coaches, Hugh Freeze, for instance, is not necessarily a certainty and probably not even a likelihood. South Carolina is going to have to settle for somebody third, fourth, fifth down the line in available hot coaches.
Well, and I think, too, part of what goes through the minds of fans is, well, we hired Lou Holtz and we hired Steve Spurrier. We can hire whoever we want, but those are very unique circumstances. Isn't that correct?
I'm telling you right now, and I was reporting on it right right there with Lou Holtz. No one else wanted Lou Holtz. Not at the major college level, maybe some low-level Power 5 schools. No one else nearly in South Carolina's capacity would have wanted Lou Holtz at the time. Steve Spurrier, different. He wanted to get back in. He wanted a situation like South Carolina where he knew he could overachieve. That was a unique, weird fit. But by and large, South Carolina has had to kind of hope to go out and get a guy like Joe Morrison that would do well. Really the highest profile guy they've ever gotten, and maybe an exception to what I just said, is Brad Scott. He was the hot coordinator at the hot school, Florida State, coming off a national championship with Charlie Ward. And let's just say that didn't work out real well in the long run. He did win their first bowl game. Give him credit for that. 93, Steve Tannehill, great. But overall, that didn't work out real well.
That's a beautiful point that you made there. Everybody wanted Brad Scott, and South Carolina got him, and it did not work out. No, it did not work out at all. We'll see where all this goes, Gene. I know we're going to start getting short on time here, and we want to make sure we get plenty of talk about the Masters in with you. But most importantly, South Carolina just needs to win games. If Will Muschamp wants to stick around, they got to start. They got to start trying to stick it this weekend. By winning, and Ole Miss is probably going to have to look something like it did 2 years ago, 48-44. Let's get to Clemson, though. They go on the road. What a ball game on Saturday. Could not have asked for any more. If you're just a fan of the sport, obviously the Tiger fans, they could have asked for more. They would like a win coming out of there. But does this in any way, shape, or form put them on the outside looking into the college football playoff in your mind?
They still control their own, path. If they beat Notre Dame, they're easily in. If they lose to Notre Dame, there's almost no chance they're in, because I don't know. You're going to have to look at Miami as their next best win, and I have no idea what the next best win after that is, because their schedule, the last 3 games here, have gotten easier just in the last week or so, with Virginia Tech losing to Liberty. Pittsburgh started the season pretty well and just isn't that good, and Florida State's pretty darn pathetic, and Clemson has 2 weeks to get ready for that, plus they'll be mad. So they'll be in Charlotte playing apparently Notre Dame, almost certainly Notre Dame. But I'll tell you, Notre Dame is really good, and I think that any Clemson fan to assume that, when we're healthier, we'll beat them, I wouldn't assume that. Clemson's going to be favored. I'll probably pick Clemson in the game, but Notre Dame's going to be a ridiculously tough out in Charlotte.
You surprised with how good Notre Dame was and how they matched up?
Seeing them in person, Darren, I think that they have a really good team. They're really a veteran team, but what strikes me is how complementary they are in just their players and how they fit into what Brian Kelly and the staff is doing there. And I was really impressed with a 28-year-old offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, calling a great game against Brent Venables, because, they did just a few weeks ago at, 12-7 against Louisville. And I just didn't expect nearly as much from that Notre Dame offense. Now, Clemson's seriously banged up. They had some really bonehead mistakes by good players, namely Travis Etienne, in this game. But I don't know. I think that, as you guys said, that was the epic battle of the season. There's not going to be a better game than double overtime, top 5 game in which the underdog wins. That right there, it's all you need to say. But, Clemson, they've got to really improve that running game and that offensive line.
Well, that's what's surprising to me, and I agree with you there. I picked Notre Dame to win this game. It's the first time in 3 or 4 years I've picked Clemson to lose a ball game. And I picked Notre Dame to win the game simply because Clemson was banged up in the center of their defense, and I thought Notre Dame defensively would be able to stop or at least control the run. I didn't see that much, and I certainly didn't see DJ Uiagalelei doing what he was doing through the air, but he did it. But the run game, that's to me, that has been the most surprising thing for the Tigers, not just in that game, but recently in the last 2, 3, 4 ball games. I could say by their standards, they have struggled running the football.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, they've got a serious problem next year with depth at running back, to the point where I would not be surprised if, for the first time, Dabo Swinney seriously dips into the transfer portal, because that's just a mess. Nobody is doing anything behind Etienne, and then defense is obviously ganging up on Etienne, and then he's fumbled in 4 straight games, lost fumbles in 3 of those 4 games.
Wow.
And inexplicably ran out of bounds on Clemson's last possession of regulation when they were really trying to run the clock.
Wow, great stat. This is the last weekend, or is it? No, this is the second to last weekend, correct? Before the first official college football playoff rankings are released. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have this one next week. Okay. Good news. So we're going to hold off on the college football playoff conversation for you for another week or two. There's some hypotheticals really to look at because right now there are some teams, including some others, who haven't gotten close to the top 4 yet that we might it might be worth mentioning here before long, and that does include the likes of like Indiana and Cincinnati. Let's get to the Masters though, Gene. Tiger's going to tee off I think about 7:55 on Thursday morning. Saw the groups today. Looking forward to the noon groups as well. I think Brooks and JT and those guys are in those groups there. What? Here we are in the fall. No fans. What is the most intriguing? What is the most intriguing story about 2020 Fall Masters in Augusta, Georgia?
I guess how the course plays, and it's going to be interesting because not only is there a lot more Bermuda grass and a lot less rye, but you're also trying to squeeze in a lot of golf in a short time with these, short days with, the daylight saving situation such that it is. But for instance, Tiger's teeing off at 7:55 on 10. They've never started a Masters like that. I mean, they're going to be wanting them off the course like at 4:30, and to add to that, it's heavy rain for the next few days. So I don't know if they get this whole thing in before Sunday at about 5 o'clock. There might be some Masters on Monday, but last year they had to play threesomes on the last day, so that's not new. But it's just going to be crazy out there and really fun to watch.
So the Masters has never, in round 1, gone off on 1 and 10 on 2 tees?
I'm pretty sure that they have not.
Huh. That is didn't realize that.
Because they just probably didn't think that they had to. Anyway, right. I'm pretty sure that's a new thing.
Are you in Augusta, Gene?
I am. I'm in the press room at Augusta right now.
Oh, it's just I can't believe you chose to do this with us over Feinbaum. Gene, I'm just kidding, man. I know that you. By the way, I know you were on Feinbaum last week. We watch you on social media. We follow your every move, so we know when you're taking it to the next level.
Surely you have better things to do. Come on.
Yeah, I have twins. I have a lot of things. I always have to see it later. Yeah. So very interesting moment earlier today. Tiger Woods choked up talking about his win last year and being able to hug Charlie and his kids and things after that. Have you ever seen a moment like that in Augusta?
I've seen, Tiger was after his round last April when I was here when he won, he was almost like that. But talking about it from the year before, not quite. I haven't seen anything like that. And I believe, and I was sitting like 4 rows away from him when he was saying that less than an hour ago, it was quite authentic. And he got choked up about a few other things, even talking about, winning here in 97 when his dad was here and, playing. He was getting choked up talking about his first time at the Masters. And he's having a practice round with Jack and Arnie, and they say, hey, you want to play the par 3 tournament with us? And he says, oh, I'm scheduled with somebody else. And they go, just come with us. Just come with us. And
Wow.
What a blast that was for him.
That is so cool. How important is it to the match? You got no fans out there. You have you got another huge weekend of football. There are clearly going to be plenty of people like Darren Goldwater who are going to double TV their living room to make sure they can watch the Masters, whatever, quadruple, knowing you. Watch the Masters, watch football and things like that. But also, a lot of these common golf fans, they might have their team, whoever their team is, playing, and they're going to be trying to flip back and forth. How important is it for the Masters this weekend, even as neat as this setting is, to have Tiger on the weekend?
I think it's really important, although if they got something like Koepka, DeChambeau, DJ, and Rory, on Sunday and really even on Saturday, that would be cool. But yeah, Tiger is always something different. And I'll tell you what, you got college game day here from 9 to 12 on Saturday morning at the Masters. And it'd be a difference there if they're talking about it when Tiger's in, that he's made the cut, than if he hasn't.
Yeah. Gene, first of all, I saw a picture on social media yesterday. If you see the white helmet with the Masters logo on it,
steal it.
I want it. Like, I will do just about anything to get that helmet on this set. That's part one. Part two, though, with Tiger choking up, do you get the sense that Tiger is realizing that, maybe he doesn't have a couple majors left in him? Maybe his body, his play this year has spoken, right? Maybe he is starting to realize that Father Time here just a little bit.
No doubt, Darren. And he was just asked, do you expect to contend? And he kind of hesitated a second and said, expect to contend? Yes, I expect to contend.
Wow.
But here's the thing. The aberration isn't that Tiger Woods isn't really one of the top golfers anymore and that he probably won't win another major. The aberration, an absolutely amazingly cool, near miraculous thing, was that he won the freaking Masters in 2019. That was ridiculous. And for the first time to do it, for the first time ever, he came from behind in a major, on Sunday. So that thing should be absolutely cherished.
It's one of the greatest sporting events I've ever witnessed in my life. Just ever with these, ever seeing. I still look back and it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. What else are we watching this week? What else are you watching this week of interest? And what are we going to expect in the paper over the next few days? Really excited to see your work as we lead into this weekend.
Yeah, well, first of all, David Cloninger, Andy Shane, people from our Columbia Bureau and Cloninger are all over the Gamecocks, and David's going to be traveling to beautiful Oxford, the William Faulkner land to cover. No fans in the Grove either, but he'll be there at the stadium. And Josh Needleman, it's an off week for Clemson, but still some good Clemson news from him. And I'm just kind of at Augusta trying to crank stuff out. A lot of interesting things going on, on and off the course here. Business really down on Washington Road, and Charleston's Mark Cummins owns that T-Bones on Washington Road, which is just the fan mecca for years and years. And I talked to him for a column tomorrow about what it's going to be like with not many fans here. The smattering of fans is that each player gets one pass for a guest to watch, like Tiger's bringing his girlfriend, and then each club member gets a couple passes for people. But yeah, that's all that's going to be here watching this.
Wow, one pass per player.
And you think about all
just one. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
I thought when they said, player families, I thought, 3 or 4, one. That's serious stuff. And media, I'm just blessed to be here because I'm telling you, it's lots of room in the press room with social distance, seating and stuff. So that's going to be weird.
Think about all the people in that area too that usually rent their homes out. They're able to pay months worth of mortgages because of this. Not able to do it this year. Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any insight as to who the guest picker will be for College Game Day?
I do not. I've been wondering that for a long time
be
myself.
Gene.
I know there's some huge football fans on the tour, including Phil and Tiger. But yeah, I have really no idea. Do you guys have any insight into that?
Not.
I got none.
I have
nothing.
No, none at all. Who do you think's going to win?
The Masters.
Yes.
I think, I'm going to say, I want to say DeChambeau. I think that would be great. But if gambling, I'll say Koepka.
Yeah.
Ooh, if you make me put money on it, I'll take Brooks Koepka.
I just watched a video of John Rahm skip a golf ball across the pond in hole-in-one at the 16. I'm going with John Rahm. I don't know how anybody does that. Have you seen that video, Gene?
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a great sign. Gene, thank you. Have the time of your life over there, even with COVID and all this stuff. You're one of the few that gets to do this. Nobody's probably ever going to be able to do this again. This is unbelievable. The Masters in the fall.
Thanks, guys. And it's weird they made the media take a rapid test COVID this morning before we walked in here. So they're very serious about this.
Wow. Well, we're serious about you, and we're glad to have you, and we can't wait to do it again next week and get a recap. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Gene Savikoff. We are all but out of time now. Real quick before we run, what day is today? It is National Vanilla Cupcake Day, and it is also happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps. God bless all of you, and thank you for your service.
Semper Fi. My dad was a proud Marine.
All right, man.
Yep.
Love it. Semper Fi, no doubt. Thanks to Perry Orth and Gene Savikoff. And we appreciate all of you watching and listening to our program today. We got J.C. Sherber tomorrow. You might want to be here for that.
He's going to be in a really good mood.
Could be. Could be. Thanks to Darren, as always. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. And make sure you download the app and make sure you reserve your spot for our social event the day after Thanksgiving. Go to jbandgoldwatershow.com to do that. For Darren, I'm Jamie. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.